guys are great. This is fun.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Dante, another episode of Why Date podcast, and we have Red Pill here.
Okay.
Kiki, Kylie, and we have our guest speaker for today, Belinda.
Hello.
From Australia, from down under, right?
Yeah. Aussie.
You know, so thank you for tuning in. I know the time is totally different from our time. What's like noon there right now?
Yeah, 11 on a Saturday.
Okay, see, Saturday.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
We're like enjoying our Friday.
Yeah,
We're like
Friday evening.
I'm in the future.
Friday.
Friday? Mondays are all mixed up because of quarantine.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah, every
Friday's
day.
just another.
This day, that day, every day.
You know, I just heard it's Coachella weekend, so a lot of people are. Yeah, it's the weekend. I didn't know that. Someone told me it's Coachella week, or was. I think they moved it to
Oh.
for all you party guys. Yeah, they moved it. But whatever. It's I saw a little documentary about Coachella. It was actually pretty interesting. Really interesting.
Was that where singles go to find love, or to snack on connection? Yeah.
I might find some other things.
Get full off
Another topic.
It's so funny.
But yeah, so the topic is we're gonna extend this to vulnerability. I think that was a really good topic that everyone kind of timed in with in our last episode, and we have someone who has so much knowledge in it. And we actually posted her quote. Kylie actually posted on there. It was pretty interesting about vulnerability. So it was back in February? You made a quote about vulnerability, I think.
I can't remember which one it was. Should I look it up?
It's on there somewhere.
It's there somewhere.
But
it was good. It was good. Go find it. I don't know.
Oh,
it was post-worthy. I want to find
It was
this.
February. It was about vulnerability.
Yeah. Yeah.
My bulletproof vest to protect myself from vulnerability was being chaotically busy.
Oh, see.
Is that the one?
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But before we jump into this, can you go into a little bit about your background and how you got into being a dating coach and whatnot?
Me? Oh, I hate talking about me. Vulnerability. No, that's okay. So where do I start? From the beginning. My divorce was from, my parents got divorced when I was a child, and I don't know if you know about imprint phases, but we have pretty intense imprint phases over our life, starting from 1 years of age, 6 years old, 13, 18 to 21. We have phases in our life that create our belief about ourselves and our belief about people in our lives. So when my parents got divorced, and this is already getting very deep, as a 6-year-old, I subconsciously decided that men were unreliable and that I was unworthy of love. From that thought or that belief, I lived into that, and everything that happened to me proved to myself that I was unworthy of love and men are unreliable. So from there, my first boyfriend disappeared after 2 years. My second boyfriend, I walked in on him cheating on me with my best friend. My third boyfriend was domestically violent. My fourth boyfriend was a gamer and paid me absolutely no attention and was very unreliable. And so my relationships just proved to me my belief about myself until I went, well, hang on, this isn't right. What's happening? I'm the common denominator. So then I uncovered my own subconscious beliefs, and then I did a whole transformation of my life. I studied counseling. I did NLP. I did a diploma in life coaching. I did Landmark, which is transformational courses. And from there, it was just for my life, to improve my life, to have the happiest possible life I wanted. And then just was sort of naturally happened. I would share with a few people about my journey, and they would say, holy shit. Oh, can I swear? You just changed my life. And I was like, oh, okay. Wow. And then people would say, do you run seminars? So I studied how to implement seminars and created my own curriculum, and I do it online and face-to-face, but not at the moment. Then one-on-one coaching, and So then and then people would refer people to me, and then it just became something that if I never did again, I would be very upset about. So it then sort of positions itself to be my life essentially. So,
So how did you become a speaker, or what did you do? What steps did you do like to create seminars? Did you like take some classes, or you kind of just, what was the steps you did to create that?
So I just basically looked at my life and the steps I implemented in order to achieve my goals, and created a curriculum, a curriculum based on the foundations that I created for myself, and also the tools that I learned throughout my 16 years of education, essentially. So some tools that I learn, I tweak to be the individual for myself and how I applied it to myself. And mostly I'm intuitive. So if people share with me what they're going through, I hear their triggers and I hear the patterns that, normal people who aren't, who haven't studied it or attuned to it would know how to find, essentially. So, which is why if you talk to your friends, you're going to get generic advice. Whereas if you talk to someone who's trained in that area, you're going to get more strategic advice that's going to be more applicable to your life.
Okay.
Okay. No, actually, I want to ask you. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Red Pill.
All right. So I heard NLP. I recently got a book on NLP, and I was just kind of delving into that. What were some of the practices from? Oh, that's, you guys don't know, neuro-linguistic programming. It's kind of a way of doing, like, probably butchering the definition, but you basically do little exercises to kind of change your paradigm perspective on either past events or current events. Yeah. Right. To kind of change the narrative, change that mental script. And so recently, I've picked that up. I found out on the last podcast that I actually did have vulnerability issues I didn't know about. And they actually stemmed from, I guess, my viewpoint on what is masculine and what is not masculine, right? And so just curious, are there any NLP practices that you do to kind of help with vulnerability and being vulnerable and being more open about, I would say, past events that affect current events, right?
So NLP, I enjoyed learning that. I don't apply a lot of the specific techniques that they use, simply because, and no disregard to NLP practitioners or how they work or operate, I just feel sometimes it can just be a Band-Aid, depending on the exercise that you're doing, than an actual transformation. So I get to transform, I trigger, and I don't mean trigger you in a negative way. I have to find the triggers. So I go right into the depth of it. And then when I find out what that trigger is for you that's creating this repetition in your life or this pain in your life, I then apply the appropriate techniques, which are similar to NLP, but they're not just a Band-Aid cup. Like it's actually pulling it apart and putting it back together. Yeah. Recreating a new mindset, reframing is something I always do, especially around body image or our inner critic, and how we pick on ourselves all the time. Love to reframe, but it goes much deeper. People think that they're dating somebody and it's not working out, but they don't realize it actually could stem from a relationship that they had with their father, or a relationship that they had with their first boyfriend, or a teacher, or something that is now playing out in their life, which is repeating. So I have to go all the way back to uncover that, which I use intuitively based on my own experiences, because essentially we're all the same, but we're different. So it's we're all experiencing pain, but it's different types. We've all experienced terrible things in our lives that have caused trauma, which are now playing out in our life, that we don't know is actually affecting us because we suppress it and we push it down and we hide it, and it's not a conscious thought, it's a subconscious thought. So it's getting into that subconscious thought in a really safe environment, and reframing it and making peace with it, and getting closure, and creating what you actually want, rather than living into what you've had. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
That did answer my question.
Okay,
I
good.
have the same beliefs about NLP, so I wasn't offended at all. I was like, because some of it is kind of like, it makes you feel better in the moment until you forget about it, but it doesn't actually carry over. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I agree. So I take it one step further than what NLP applies.
Can you share one of your greatest success stories that you've had with one of your clients and helping them find love?
Find love or couples reconnecting?
Find love.
Okay. So okay. One of my favorite ones. There's so many, but one of them was she was dating a guy consistently on and off for a few years. And their values were different. He didn't want kids or married and to get married, and she wanted kids and to get married. And I said to her, values don't change, especially when they're so important. They're a high value. So are you happy to change your values? Because he's not going to. So it took her 2 years to work it out. And then eventually she was fearing, not finding love again, being single, the whole deadline, time frames to having kids and the pressures of family saying, when are you going to give us babies and get married, and you're getting older and all of this stuff. So she's stuck into this relationship for all the wrong reasons. Then when I said, when you decide what you want to do, come to me and I'll guide you through that process. So she decided she wanted to end the relationship, and I guided her through the breakup process, which I have a book on. Little plug, sorry.
What is the book called? Quick thought, what is the book called?
Breaking Down the Breakup.
Breaking Down the Breakup. Okay.
So the 4 emotional phases you go through when dealing with heartbreak. So I guided her through that whole process. And then from there, she, went through the grieving, all of those emotions. And then 6 months later, she came to me and she said, I'm getting ready to, find love. But, the whole, Kylie, I'm not sure if you know or have experienced this, but the whole, there's no good men out there. They only want casual sex. They just want the hit and quit. And she kept, meeting that. So then I worked through those blocks. I'm not glad that you've experienced it, but it's good that, we can relate. It's not just an Aussie thing. I used to think that it was just Aussie men.
The whole world.
Okay.
The whole world.
It's universal. Okay.
They're called mini names.
Ah. What?
And the mini names.
Share. Dante, I want to hear. No, okay. Yeah, okay. You're being polite, being a gentleman. Okay. So long story short, when she was ready for love, I guided her through the process and cleared her blocks and fears that no men want love, no men want marriage, no men want children. And the guy that 6 months later, after that first conversation, she started dating a guy that was in her yoga studio that she'd been seeing for years, going to the same studio. Finally, like a light turned on. Mm-hmm. Once all of her blocks were cleared, and she was open and vulnerable and available, they met. They moved in 3 months later. They just got engaged, and they're getting married after COVID, I think so.
Wow, that's great.
You know what the guy said and what made him change his mindset? Did he ever tell you?
Oh no. Like she broke up with him, and met a new guy.
Oh, a new guy.
Total new.
Okay, I was like, wait a minute, hold on.
Yeah, no, total new guy.
Whoa, okay. I was like, wait a minute, what made him change? Okay.
Yeah, no. He's the same. He
never changed.
The original guy is the same. He's sort of
yeah.
Yeah.
So in other words, are you saying you can't change a man's mind like once it's set? Like there is no changing her ex's mind about it?
Men are very black and white in my opinion. Tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I think men are very black and white when if you meet a guy and he says, I don't want a relationship, I just want casual sex, and you are thinking I'm going to change his mind. Well, sister, stop wasting your time. Like that's what he wants. And if you're happy with that, go for it. If you're not, and you want something more, don't waste your time. Just move on. So gentlemen, is that good advice?
So yeah, actually this is like incredibly relevant. I literally just finished a kind of like a spat maybe like 3 hours ago with a girl who she wants a relationship, and I told her I don't want one. And so we had been chatting up about 20 days. Like literally it's been like 20 days, like to the mark. And so I knew I didn't want a relationship, so I didn't allow the conversations to go in areas that were like really, really deep or intimate, because in my mind, I was like, if I kind of just block that intimacy, then there won't be something for her to think there's a relationship there. And we actually, I'm not going to say how we met. I'm not going to say too much because I think she's going to follow this, she really made it out to seem that I was really leading her on when I told her I didn't want one. And I felt really bad about it. And, but it's true. Like when the mind's man, when as a guy, my mind is set, Or right before you hopped on, my last relationship, it's literally on paper was perfect. Like we fight, we had the same views on money, which is like a really big thing for me, right? We're both same views on money, same views on travel, adventure, entrepreneurship. We liked all the same things. Like it was literally like just it was awesome. We dated for 2 years, and she wanted me to guarantee that I would give her kids, and I couldn't. It wasn't that I wasn't sure, but it was like I don't know. I didn't know, and she really wanted that. And then our upbringing was drastically different, and she couldn't really. We're from different continents, right? So she couldn't really adjust to my culture and then my subculture versus what she grew up with. And those two big things on what you expect parenting to be like and have kids, we had to break up.
Yeah.
So
and I agree. You can't hang in waiting for someone to change their mind, especially on such high values around that.
Right.
There are things you can be negotiable on. Height, hair color, eye color, and I think we do need to be flexible on the physical. If you are so set in your ways around what your type is, and you're going to miss out on meeting someone really, really amazing.
True. I see that a lot, a lot of people, I notice a lot of people who do stay in relationship, or not stay in relationship, but stay trying to change someone's mindset. And it just never, I don't see any positive gain from unless they want to make changes on themselves. You can't really put that on someone, but I don't see much.
Sorry, you go.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, people will only want to transform their life or their situation that they're at and on their own, and they want to do it. They will do it for themselves, not for anyone else. And same with you. If you want to do something, do it for yourself. Yeah. Don't go and get boob implants for a man. Like, sorry.
All right.
Yeah, what Dante?
I've seen it where there's the male who's making like a lot of money, and then they have their wives like get implants, ass implants, boob implants, and they're totally on board with it. So they're just like, yeah, okay, you have the money, let's do it. But like that, to me, that's a whole other topic. But I've seen that happen where I'm just like, oh wow.
and it's just, well, I say this then, don't move for someone. So what I mean by that is, if you find love and you want to move because of that relationship, absolutely, but don't move for solely that person, because you need to have your own interests, your own hobbies, your own your own life. Because if that ends, ultimately you're going to blame that person for moving when it's do things for yourself, be empowered by your choices.
Nice. Hopefully that answer a couple of you guys' questions. I know someone asked a question on our live stream.
I know Anne Shirley, she asked, do those ideas about your worth in men still exist, and just how to choose differently versus allowing patterns to win?
What was the first part? Sorry.
Do those ideas about your worth in men still exist?
Do my ideas about worth in men? Is that what
worth in men? I'm not really sure.
That's the older script you had before you went through your transformation, where you do those small things still pop up from time to time.
All right, I'll be really, really vulnerable. So I'm really blessed because I've got tools around this. But there is still one thing that does affect me, and it is the abandonment of a man. So the feeling of the whole goodbye. Like when my dad said goodbye, that was the last goodbye. And even though he was still in my life, I saw him twice a month, and I shared him with 4 other kids of the family he was with. And I rarely had like a male figure in my life consistent. I didn't have a consistent male figure in my life. So for me, the whole goodbye, I do get anxiety around, because I'm always thinking, oh, will he come back? But the way in which I deal with that is my past, it's not my present. That is one experience. And then I realized my dad was still in my life. Just even my exes, like even the cheating one, even the domestic violent one, I've made peace with all of them for my own happiness and for my own self-worth. People go, how can you forgive someone that beat you? Well, because if I held that grudge, I'm only drinking toxins and poison, hoping it kills them when it's hurting me. So negative energy, it affects the adrenals, it affects weight gain, stress, the hypothalamus. It's all like, we could talk about that for a long time, but emotions do manifest into the physical. So I forgave all of that. But every person that comes into my life, despite my past experiences, I allow them to show me who they are through natural progression, rather than judging and putting restrictions. And I did that in the past, and I pushed my ex into another woman's arms. I'm not condoning his actions, but it's a two-way street. I did create some of that with how needy I was and fearing he was going to leave me. So I just trust the process, and I know everything happens for me, not to me. And I allow everyone to show me who they are naturally, individually, without any, tarnish of the past.
Oh yeah, that's got a little vulnerable there. I know it's.
Yeah. Thank you
I
for
do
sharing.
hate goodbyes.
Yeah.
I bloody hate goodbyes.
Yeah, no,
I'm really
that's-
glad that you shared that with us, because I can totally relate, because my parents got divorced when I was younger, and my biological father hasn't really been in my life at all. I haven't seen him in like 18 years. So I do share that same abandonment issue when it comes to, starting a relationship or any type of relationship with a man. So I could totally like relate to you on that level.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm so sorry that he hasn't been in your life. And I promise you that there are reliable men out there, Kylie. Absolutely. We just got to, the way in which we attract a reliable man is by trusting there are reliable men. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. They're out there.
Sending you hugs.
Thank
You're welcome.
So give me a second. I'm actually we have some questions from our last episode. I don't know if anyone else had any other questions here, but I don't know if I didn't see any questions on the live stream. But I know we talked about it. We had an episode about vulnerability prior on Wednesday, and I'm just kind of revisiting some of the topics there. Just give me a second here. Let me pull it up. But
can I share something while you look for that about vulnerability?
Yeah,
totally.
So my opinion about why people are not getting into relationships. So I don't know if you're aware, but divorces increased, relationships have declined over the past few years. And I truly believe that it's because we're so scared of being vulnerable and getting hurt and having heartbreak that we prefer to snack, as I was saying before, on connection rather than having the banquet, because it's easier to snack and jump from person to person and not get hurt than it is to make that deep connection with someone and potentially have heartbreak. But what I want to say about that is snacking on connection can leave you feeling lonely just as much as heartbreak can. So instead of snacking, start to really, everyone's unique and individual in what they want. But if you are someone looking for love and are scared of vulnerability and fearing heartbreak, you've got to step past the fear to get what you want. And if you are just snacking on that connection, and if in your heart you're saying, yes, I want love and a relationship, but then you meet a guy, and I'm talking to the ladies right now, and you meet a guy and he says, I just want casual sex, and then you decide, okay, I'm going to have casual sex, and then you wake up the next day and you feel worse because you're not getting that depth of connection that you're looking for, It's okay to say no. I want you to know that it's really okay to say, no, I don't want to sleep with you tonight, and just not. We don't have to sleep with someone to be liked by somebody, and you are allowed to have that depth of the connection that you want. You just might have to wait for a little bit longer. And if you're okay with that, and you're okay with who you are and your life, then it's much easier. Whereas heartbreak happens when we jump into the wrong relationships because we think this is the right person because the chemistry is there, but we miss the compatibility because we're rushing into it for the wrong reasons. I just went on a tangent then, but hopefully somebody.
It's good. No, it's good. Yeah. So the question, I guess the whole vulnerability topic. How does vulnerability impact relationships?
The vulnerability impacts relationships. Without vulnerability, so you've got to have trust firstly. But I think trust is something that you don't earn. I don't think you earn trust. I think that you just have to naturally trust, because if you don't trust, you can't be vulnerable. Not everybody's going to be right for you in the world. You can't expect that everyone in the world is going to be compatible with you. And when I talk about rejection, I say chase the no, because there will be more no's than yeses, because you only want really one yes, essentially. So, if you've stopped fearing the rejection and start embracing that not everyone's compatible, and going out there and trusting the process, you will be able to be more vulnerable, because with vulnerability becomes connection, comes trust, communication, the ability to rely on one another and communicate in a way that helps you to create the life that you want in that relationship.
Okay. I had someone who's on live stream ask a question. At what point should a woman be vulnerable / open up to a man during a dating phase without scaring the man away?
So what was that person's name?
Jen.
So Jen?
Yeah, Jen.
Yeah. So the question, at what point should you be vulnerable?
Yeah.
So if you are vulnerable in a relationship and you scare that man away, good riddance is all I say. And because if he can't handle you at vulnerability, then there is no point in that relationship where you can be vulnerable. Does that make sense? Because he's going to run anyway. It could be 3 dates in, or 6 dates in, or 10 dates in. He does. Pardon?
Oh, I just said right. Like I was just
yeah.
Just
yeah. Okay. Cool.
Right.
Yeah. So instead of worrying about when to be vulnerable, or how to act, or how to please somebody, or how to get them to like you, is not worrying about that, and knowing that who you are authentically will attract the person that matches you authentically, and it will repel the people that aren't your match, and just be okay with that. Now, I'm not saying on the first date, say I want to marry you and and I love you, because you don't even know that. And we often as women, put the ball in the man's court to decide. You've got to remember, you get to decide if this person's right for you as well. And you only do that by naturally unfolding and seeing where the relationship goes. And I would say gradually show bits and pieces of yourself at your own pace. You don't have to, rush into it all at once. And I don't recommend that, because you want to see as well how he handles your vulnerability and if that is attractive to him or not, which gives you the answer as to whether you should continue dating him. Does that answer the question?
She probably waiting for a response soon. She did say truth. She did truth.
Yeah.
And they got a couple of yeses. Someone said yes, that is the truth. Got a couple of likes here.
Okay, good.
I'm sure it helped her. I'm sure.
So what I'll add on to that is
Yes, please.
I'll admit I am a chronic snacker, right? That's
red pill.
That's that is
I've
just
never heard
how I function. That's how I operate, right? I'm an extroverted extrovert, right? I'm Sagittarius. I just love being out, meeting people, dating around. And I'll admit, like, one of the things is, like, I like having deep conversations with people, but if I am on a date with a girl, or I'm talking to a girl, or first phone call, whatever, and she's just like spilling to her, that's because people are very comfortable talking to me. I joke around. I don't take things too seriously. I'm not very sensitive. And that does kind of put me off just a little bit.
Question. I want the
Yes.
women to know, why does it put you off from a male's perspective?
It puts me off because as a man, it typically takes a little bit of extra effort to get our emotional engines like revved up and running. And it's basically,
Yeah.
it's like, I feel like, wow, I have to respond, and I may not be as like, I just in this weird spot, right? Where like, I don't feel like I'm responsible enough right now to handle all these emotions that you're giving me because I
Yeah.
don't know you.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to handle these. I do. They seem important. I really enjoy our conversations, but you're giving me a lot to hold on to right now, and I don't know you that well.
So at what point do you think you can handle those emotions?
Well, I don't want to put like a time frame on it, but it's definitely more so along the lines of like the fourth or fifth date, right? Like maybe we haven't been physically intimate yet, but there's been a point where I've kind of initiated that, where I'm like, all right, like she's been intimate enough to where I could be intimate back, and now I'm willing to play tennis with this, and we can open up to each other. But if
So
I haven't opened up at all yet, and you're just spilling to me, it's probably not going to happen.
It's too much.
It's just too much.
But is that also because, Red Pill, I'm going to ask a vulnerable question, you aren't wanting a relationship? and that vulnerability is too much because you just want the snack connection, not the deep connection.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were a man sitting here wanting a relationship, do you think it would be a little bit different?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, even if I want a relationship and I'm really into this girl, if it is too soon, it may not scare me away, but it will put me off.
Okay.
Just because I would feel bad for someone to share so much with me, and I'm just not willing to share with them at that moment.
Okay. So what you're saying is, ladies, match the guy as to the level of sharing, because that will sort of guide you on what point he's at. Is that what would you say that's good advice?
Yes.
Yeah. Because we as women, so you go, I cut you off then. I'm really.
Go ahead. I want to hear what you're saying. Go for it.
So the reason why women talk more and men talk less is because back in the day, when the men were hunters and the women were gatherers and living at home, taking care of the family, in order to survive, the women would talk loudly in the bush and doing whatever they're in their homes to scare away the animals or intruders. Men, on the other hand, when they're together, they were hunting and they would be quiet because they can't talk, because they can't be seen, they can't be heard. So it's evolved even to today, which is the old brain,
right.
The new brain. We're now going into a new brain, which is why more women are stepping into the masculine energy, and this is a whole other topic. But the new brain and the old brain, so the old brain is the women talk because that's what we're accustomed to, and it's survival, and to the men to survive, keep quiet. So I don't know why I've gone there or what what happened.
Yeah, no,
I never heard that before either. Interesting.
Yeah, the listening part that's I mean, I heard the men hunt, but like, you know, I mean, I never heard the women listening part. That's
yeah.
So we also had a discussion about men and the difference between sensitivity and vulnerability.
Yes.
So there's a time where a guy is too emotional and he's sensitive, and the girls are like, oh, and they like just like pause and like, oh, he's too sensitive. He's not masculine enough. So I mean, from your perspective, what's
So there's we refer to masculine and feminine as male and female, but we all embody the masculine and feminine energy. So when you're sensitive, that can be sort of a toxic feminine energy. So sensitive is like taking on words too harshly and being offended by something. Sometimes the delivery could be fixed as well. It's not always about how you're receiving it, it's how you're delivering it.
Yeah.
So there is no negative, I believe, in embodying masculine and feminine energy, because it's a healthy balance.
Yeah.
When you're in your masculine energy, you're deciding, you're driving, you're energized. When you're in the feminine energy, it's like you're flirty and fun and adventurous, and it's like you go on a holiday when you step in your feminine. So I recommend men do step in their feminine, which is also why men are drawn to women, because they are always masculine at work. Boom, boom, boom. This is the old traditional style, obviously.
Yeah.
And then when they come home to their woman and she's in her feminine, it's like, oh, I'm coming home for a holiday, because you get that feminine, light, fun energy.
Yeah.
Which is also why I think the relationships have twisted so much, because women are so much in their masculine energy now, and we're not stepping into the feminine. But what was your question? The difference between sensitivity and
vulnerability. I mean, coming from perspective of both, I guess you could say men and also women too, but I think more of the men's side of it, because we had a discussion about that. We couldn't really define that, or I couldn't define that from our last topic. But
so I think sensitivity is more in a way of receiving and feeling about how somebody has sort of delivered something to you or said something about you, negative feedback, or taking it on in a way that is negative rather than hearing it constructively. Sensitivity and vulnerability is having your heart open and trusting the process and sharing with somebody the things that you would only share with special people, essentially. Like it's seeing allowing them to see all of your faces, of the many personalities of who you are, and still loving that person.
Okay, it's different perspective. That actually clarifies a lot of the difference of those two, because we got that kind of mix up. We're like, I don't think it's necessarily that one, and we just kept switching it up. So that's good clarification.
Well, sensitivity can also be the softness, like really understanding a woman and listening and stepping into your feminine. But it can become toxic when it then now is offending and needy and like not. It's the fine line, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Aunt Shirley had a question.
She asked, can the love coach expand on how we as a culture use sex to get our emotional intimacy met, but it's like the wrong way to go about it, kind of?
Yeah. So I mentioned it briefly before about vulnerability. So we're so scared of getting hurt and being vulnerable, we're snacking on quick connections. This day and age, it's so easy to meet somebody, just swipe right, meet at a coffee shop. Well, not at the moment, which is why I'm loving Corona. Let me rephrase that. There are so many positives to Corona. There are a lot of negatives, but there are positives to Corona in the sense that I think this is going to change people's perspective on love and relationships and change their priorities. Because if you're single and you've been flinging around here and there, and this is a very generalized statement, and now you're on your own and you don't have a connection with somebody, you're kind of thinking, oh, was I really wasting my time? Was that beneficial time? Like, obviously it's fun and experimental, but you got to think about the depth of your life and what you really truly want. And quick connections with people benefiting your purpose? For me, no. It's individual for everybody. It's easy to get a quick connection. It's not easy to find a deep love.
True. I mean, I heard stories. I've heard from a grapevine.
I've experienced it all. So I mean, I can honestly share. Like I've been single for 6 years. I was single for 8 years in between my domestic violent one and the video game playing. And I genuinely thought, F men, excuse my language. I didn't say it, but I'm implying it. I am just going to do what I want when I want. I'm going to be a woman of the world and have experiences. And I did. And when I look back on it, it's grown me. It's shown me a lot about who I am and what I want, but it's not what I want long term. I really want that loving connection with somebody that I can be vulnerable with and have them have my back. You know, if I go to the hospital, I can't ring my one night stand and say, hey, babe, can you come and help me? Who's this? Do you know who I am?
I have a question. For you.
Yes.
Right. And so you've been through everything you've been through. And I'm also pretty positive you went through an immense amount of education to know what you know now. Mm-hmm. Right. Do you ever feel like you know too much? and maybe that makes it harder. Like you meet a guy who's great guy, but you can just tell he's a lot more emotionally illiterate than you are. Does that happen?
Yes, this is a very good question. So I think I'm ever evolving. So I think learning and growing is something that is consistent on a daily basis. But you are right. I do often get people say to me, "Oh, you're a love coach. You're going to judge me." I have no judgment for anybody, for their opinions and choices and what they want for their life. The only thing that I assess is how you treat me. So to answer your question, it has been challenging because people instantly think, "Oh, you are going to judge me," and which shows their insecurities. So essentially it weeds out people that aren't right for me. So I do want somebody that is emotionally available, but also emotionally aware. And people, not that it's hard to come by, but I feel like I phrase it like this. It's like when you're in school, there are some people in grade 12 and there are some people in grade 8. And I feel like I'm in grade 12 and I'm meeting people in grade 8 at times. We're just different phases of our life.
Okay.
Yeah. If that helps.
I was just really curious. But yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't, I'm not unhappy about it. I just know that it's the right person will come into my life at the right time.
Okay. So I think someone had a question too. Thank you for answering these questions too, by the way.
That's okay. My pleasure.
So how do you know you're meeting someone who isn't re-triggering your old schemas from childhood? Sorry, I couldn't read that fully.
Well, you never know. You never know. But the thing is you've just got to experience, and somebody can trigger you at any time in your life. You could be on the internet and someone's commented on your photo, something that triggers you, but it lies within. So it's knowing how to deal with that trigger as it arises and not projecting onto that person, sharing with them, like, this is not my values are this isn't matching my values at the moment. So I need to just take a step back and assess what's going on for me right now, because I'm triggered. Like, and just being vulnerable about it and sharing openly and honestly with somebody will deepen that bond. And then they have that understanding of, oh, okay, shit, when I do this happens. But you can never, I believe people don't intentionally, even bullies, like this is another topic altogether. I don't think bullies realize they're bullies. They just say and do what they think because that's honest, but that it's all in the delivery. So I think we need to be accountable for how we deliver feedback, and we also need to be accountable for how we receive feedback. And if you respond instead of reacting, because a reaction is from an emotional place, a triggered place, a response is assessing the scenario and the situation and replying in a way that does not have any emotion attached to it. Being responsible for that.
Okay.
What do you think? There's a lot of silence.
I got a friend from Australia too. She said, "Hey, from Australia, what's up?" So,
G'day, mate. How you going?
It said, "Oi, oi, oi."
Aussie. Oi.
Okay, all right.
I'm not really this brown. I've just put a spray tan on. So I'm a white Australian.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
What? Aussie, oi.
Yeah.
It's something that we chant. It's like like the haka for New Zealanders.
Okay.
It's not as intense or spiritual, obviously, but it's how we connect with our chant. Aussie. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, all right. Learning something new. I'm learning something about snacking, and I had never heard.
I just made that up.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
It's pretty good. I guess one of the questions I do want to ask, and I guess in the millennial or just in our culture, like millennials, Gen Ys, someone mentioned, I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask too is, why do we accept lack of vulnerability in the culture? I noticed that now, like it's been like acceptable in our in our culture or even in our generation. And what's the other question? So yeah, and how does a lack of vulnerability affect emotional intimacy?
So I think we accept this culture now because nobody actually knows how to deal with heartbreak. Well, people do. So there are no education. Let me say that again. There are educational tools and pieces around that, but we don't align it or associate it to actually implement those steps or the education. Does that make sense? So there's knowledge out there, but people are so scared of approaching a coach or a counselor or whatever it might be because of the judgment. So they just ask their friends and then they get the same advice. So that's why there's this vicious cycle of a lack of vulnerability, a lack of connection, and then we just go around in circles. It's that pattern. Mm-hmm. So you need to break that pattern. You need to break it by doing something different. And doing something different is understanding, why can't I be vulnerable? Well, I can't be vulnerable because, mainly I don't want to be hurt again. I don't want to go through the same thing that I've just dealt with, because I think, in my opinion, that heartbreak is worse than death. And I've lost my dad. My dad passed away of cancer. I love my dad very much. My opa passed away in November. I've dealt with death firsthand, and it hurts, but there's closure. Whereas with heartbreak, they don't offer you closure. And we're trusting somebody and putting our heart in somebody's hands so much that it's safer to hold it close and not allow somebody in. Yeah. So we're not allowing ourselves to step into that fear and trust somebody enough that, I can't sit here and say every relationship will last forever, because they won't. But it's about where you're at in your life and how you approach it, and being like, there's no such thing as rejection for me.
Yeah.
I have no association with rejection, because just because somebody's not compatible with you doesn't mean that you're not worthy. Mm-hmm. Just because somebody isn't interested in you doesn't mean you're not lovable. It's just you're not compatible. Like Nutella. My favorite theory is my Nutella theory. So I want to ask you guys, how many people do you think in the world love Nutella?
Oh, man.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot.
Like on a percentage out of 100%.
I just now found out they have the little...
High 70s.
70? Okay. Well, guess what? How delicious is Nutella, by the way?
It's delicious.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So if you take into account how delicious Nutella is, and even if you think 70% of the world likes Nutella, there's still 30% of people that don't. But then you've got to think vegans, people who don't eat sugar, the palm oil, people who are allergic to nuts. It's probably more like 50%. But do you think Nutella sits on the shelf thinking, how can I please the other 50% of the world so that they like me? all the creators of Nutella? No. It still flies off the shelf. 50% of people love it, and it's delicious. Well, we're Nutella. We're Nutella. Don't change yourself to please 100% of people, because you're going to be a chameleon and exhausted for the rest of your life. Just be you. Just be Nutella, because 50% of people will love you because you're delicious. Don't worry about the other people that aren't interested. It's just time wasting. You don't have enough time to please everybody. So going back to the question, yes, I do think there is an acceptance of a lack of vulnerability in the world, which I do believe that has created this hit it, quit it mentality. Do I think it needs to change? I absolutely think it needs to change, because, you can feel just as lonely having snack connections than you can, having the heartbreak. So it's about deciding what you want for you and actually going for that, and knowing that it will be harder to find that relationship, because there are people in grade 8 when you're in grade 12. So, does that answer the question?
Yeah, no,
I rambled a lot there.
No, it's fine.
That was good.
Yeah. So you want to ask a question, Kazi?
We have another question from Anne Shirley. She asked, how can you be more able to distinguish who's the right person for you?
Is it Anne?
Anne Shirley.
Hi, Anne Shirley. You distinguish that based on your own values. So you must first know your own values. So this is in the foundational setting that I create in my course. So if you don't know who you are and what you want, you're never going to find the person that is right for you, because you're going to be a chameleon. people pleasing, adapting. So when you know your love language, your values, who you are in this world, what your purpose is, I mean, that's hard. Not everyone knows their purpose. You don't need to know your purpose to find love. But if you're comfortable in your own skin, if you're living authentically, you are going to just, someone will be magnetic in your life. Like they'll just magnetize to you because you're owning who you are, and then they will come into your life because it's a vibrational thing. So first, get to know who you are first. Stop looking out there for what it is. Get to know you first. I've literally just realized I want an emotionally available man. I was missing all of that because I wasn't emotionally available. Even as a love coach, I wasn't emotionally available. So now that I know I'm emotionally available, that's going to happen for me. So, and I'm really excited about that. So be clear on your values, know your love language, know what who you are, and then naturally that'll unfold for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably makes sense to try that. I'm sure she's still on here. Yeah, I don't want to take too much of your time. I know, I'm sure you're a busy person. I'm not sure if you guys have any other questions. I'm not sure if you want to wrap it up.
I do.
Oh.
Oh, it's wrapping it up.
So
Okay.
this is like kind of like a serious question, right? A lot of men in certain subcultures grow up where they are absolutely demonized for any type of sensitivity, vulnerability, openness, right? I grew up in one of those subcultures. I'm sure there's subcultures for that over in Australia where certain men just grew up and it's like, hey, you're not allowed to cry or be sad. Well, I also grew up in a very stoic household. Like both my parents, incredible stoicism, right? And so even anger wasn't allowed in the house. Like there was like nothing. And so I've recently, like I'm either happy or I'm quiet. It's kind of only I operate only modalities. But for women who are currently in a relationship with men or entering a relationship with a man who grew up in this subculture, what is the advice you would give to a woman, to a guy who is showing all the signs that he wants to be with you, but unfortunately he just doesn't have the emotional bandwidth at the moment? What are things she can do or bring up to him to kind of just influence him to make that change in himself?
I just think by not trying to influence and by allowing him to be him will allow him to open up more. Does that make sense? So women can often get in our masculine energy and be decisive about that relationship and put pressure on through saying, I want to be with you. I like you. I'm giving you an ultimatum. Do you want me? And which is very negative, but you can still have the same conversation, but coming from a feminine energy, which is nurturing and loving and allowing him to open up. So coming from a place of what's masculine, I hate,
Right.
is going to put a man off. Because men naturally want to be the masculine. I know this is a very traditional thing, but we still are very traditional in some senses. So by being the feminine and allowing him and creating the space and opening the space for him to come forward, it's like a rubber band. The more you pull a rubber band, the more it gets tighter. And when you flick it, it goes the other way. So you just got to let it flow, let it be natural and not rush and put pressure on, and just create the space. Does that?
That does. I guess the opposite of that would be, all right, I don't know if you guys noticed already, I do have a problem with being open. So my problem isn't so much dating or like even like commitment, right? Like I've had girlfriends. It's just intimacy is really, really hard. I grew up in a family that doesn't hug, doesn't kiss, doesn't say I love you. I don't think I've heard an I love you since I was like 12. It's like, that's just my family. And I play sports all my life.
I love you. Was that too soon?
No, it's fine.
Okay, good. Yay!
I just
You're not gonna say it back. I'm just kidding.
I play sports all my life, so I'm always hanging out with guys, right? I operate almost solely in the masculine. All my friends are very masculine. I don't know if you ever had any clients that were guys who struggle with that intimacy. Like, what would you say for someone who's not always incredibly comfortable being intimate?
So what are you fearing by being intimate?
I guess for me, it's just like, it's a little awkward, and in my entire life, it's always been unrequited. And so I'm just kind of like, well, if it's like a really visceral thing, like a one night stand, a hookup, like I'm down. But if it's like,
Yeah.
you know, kind of like just laying on the couch, someone wants to cuddle when we're sleeping, that's really hard for me.
Are you ready? Do you want me to go deeper? I want to ask this before I go deeper.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So there's a fear there as to what's stopping you from going past that quick connection. So what can I ask you is that fear?
Yeah, I think I kind of feel like it's gonna be like, you need to throw a slinky down the stairs. Like once it goes, it's gone, right? Like it's just gonna keep on turning and turning and turning. I'm afraid that I open up like that, it's gonna pull out more things and more. It's kind of like when the magician pulls the scarf out of his sleeve and it just never ends. And I kind of feel like if you crack that eggshell, I'm gonna leak out, and so I gotta block that off.
And what's wrong with that? What's wrong with leaking out?
Well, I guess just growing up, it was like every time I was in a position to kind of leak out, it was like patched up fast.
Yeah.
And it was just tough. And actually, I'll even admit, I went to therapy for it. So most people who know me, I'm a single dad, right?
Beautiful.
Didn't work out with my son's mom, and I didn't trust women at all, right? When I grew up, I only had two women in my life, with my mom and my sister. Again, still local family. And then like after that, it was like I wrote them off. I was like, nah, MGTOW made sense. Everyone MGTOW was at the time. I was like, oh, MGTOW makes sense. No, I don't agree with that at all. No, I don't think it makes sense. But at the time, you know, I went to therapy for it, and I went for a while, and then it was just like we made no headway.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
What happened when the first time you were vulnerable or shared or let it leak out? What happened?
I was kind of pushed away. I was being too sensitive.
Who told you that?
Both of my parents growing up, past women that I've dated, like up until about, I would say like, yeah, up till, I think the last time I was really vulnerable, definitely my son's mom was the last time. And after that, I was just like off.
So what in that moment did you make it mean about yourself?
It was kind of like, yeah, my feelings like are my feelings, and they're not really going to be valued or respected or appreciated. And so it's like, well, just keep it to yourself, because I like me enough for like, that's just the way it's going to be.
So do you think that when you open up with a woman, she's going to undervalue you or devalue you?
Kind of, yeah.
Or push you away. So you push them away before they push you away.
So what typically I don't really push them away, they just get really frustrated and leave. So I'm not like actively pushing them, they're just...
No, it's a subconscious thing. So so I was chaotically busy to avoid being vulnerable. You are, I'm trying to think of the wording. You create a scenario that makes the woman walk away before they push you away. Does that make sense? So it's like, this is you controlling the scenario. So you don't have to go back to that place of feeling undervalued or devalued by a woman when you're sensitive. Is this resonating?
A little too deeply, but yeah.
Tell me, are you comfortable with this going more, or do you want me to?
So, I mean, yeah.
I don't want to leave you hanging.
Totally. I'm comfortable with this going deeper, yeah.
So what I want you to know is that everybody deals with feelings and emotions differently. So your parents and your family was raised the way they were raised, which create their meaning around sensitivity or emotions. And it's a flow-on effect, and it's, you know, now your beliefs. And it's scary to be vulnerable, but I want to tell you right now, women want to hear the sensitive side of you. Women feel more connected with you when you share openly about who you are. And if a woman says that's too much for me, then get rid of her, because we deserve that genuine depth of connection and the person that will be there for us when we want to leak out. Because we're human, we're not robots. We have feelings, and we're allowed to share those feelings. So I feel like you need to disassociate that connection of how your parents and family deal with emotions and reframe it and create a new way of looking at it, it'll be scary. But, I want to ask you, are you happy? Like, and this is all personal preference, but are you happy with the short connections, or do you want something more?
I think I want something more. Currently, I understand that I'm not ready for something more. Right?
Yeah.
I just recently got out of a relationship, so I'm okay right now. But I did enjoy that, and I could say my last relationship was the first time where intimacy was allowed. I allowed myself to be a bit more open.
Yeah.
Right. But even then, it was like conversations would start, and it would literally get to a point where my mouth would open and nothing would come out. Like I physically couldn't. It was ineffable. I just could not say these things. And then she would just stare at me and be like, "Are you gonna close your mouth? Like, what, are you gonna say something?" I'd be like, and then I would just stop, and then I just stonewall, monolith, just not. They'd be like, "Oh, it's okay. We'll talk about it later." I'll just brush it off.
Yeah. And you know what? That's a guy thing. You're not alone. Guys go to their cave and they try and solve it and fix the problem, and then they come back. And women are like, we need to talk about this. Come and tell me. I want to help. I want to fix it. And we don't allow that space.
Right.
So we need to be more in tune in how we deal with things. But so you just avoid it altogether. So we need to create a new meaning around. So when that relationship ended, did you make it mean that it was because you were vulnerable or intimate or weren't enough?
So when that relationship ended, it was just more so there's the two big things, which is I couldn't guarantee her kids, and then the values were, it's just slightly different values. And because intimacy was happening, we dated for about almost 2 years, and it was like towards the end, it was like I was really opening up. Like we would have talks in the middle of the night about like, oh, this happened in my childhood, or oh, this happened in my past relationship. I have a personal rule. I almost never talk about past relationships with someone that I'm dating. I almost never bring it up.
Did you enjoy those conversations?
They were very hard. I think I enjoyed them after they were over, and I could look back on them and be like, okay, we talked about that. But in the moment, they were excruciating.
Why were they excruciating?
Because it was like the handkerchiefs coming out of the sleeve, and it was almost like a flow where I couldn't stop it. I feel like I was losing control. I couldn't.
So I need to hear a feeling. So why was it excruciating?
Oh, I had to revisit those things. I had to go back and revisit them.
Did you feel like you were being judged?
I think it wasn't that I was being judged per se by the person I was telling. I was just remembering the judgments at the time when those things happened. And they felt very real, very current, like they're happening right now.
So we need to, this is a bit of a process, but we need to go back to that time where you felt like that and make peace and find closure for that, because that experience was with that person, and it's not necessarily going to replay. It will replay if you still haven't made peace with it. It will still happen in your life because you need to find the lesson and get the closure. But until you make peace, so when you make peace with it, that is when you can reframe your mindset and actually be comfortable with being vulnerable. And you've just got to own who you are. This is your journey. Like, see how it was so easy for me to talk about my life because I have made peace with it. Like there's no upset or anger or frustration. And I tell people openly, I'm an open book because I know and I'm comfortable with who I am. And I know that the people who love me will be here and the people that don't get me won't be. And that's okay. But you get me at my best and my worst, and I'll love you forever. Do you know what I mean? I want to go more into some coaching for you right now. But I want you to know that women truly appreciate it when a man is open with her and vulnerable, because that is where the trust is built. It strengthens that bond, and it allows, and she wants to be, when you share with her, a woman will want to do more for you because she cares for you and loves you and sees that side of you. I don't think women, I'm generalizing again, But there are women in the world that don't get men's emotions and don't get crying and that, but that's okay. That you don't need to worry about those women. There are women out there, me included, Kylie included. I know, I already know you from this short conversation,
Okay.
that find absolute beauty in that depth of sharing and that connection. And do you know what? If you are so vulnerable, sometimes a woman will want to change her values. And I'm not saying that they should, but when you are so connected with somebody, you adapt and you look at your negotiables and you come together on that journey bonded. It might be scarier, but there's so many more payoffs. The impact, I think, is far greater than not connecting, because you're living in a world of who am I? You're going quiet.
Yeah, no, we're just
Yeah, that got deep. I was like,
we're taking it in. I was like, oh.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was.
But thank you. I think I needed to hear that. When you just grow up in a culture where it's like, hey, yeah, like you have to be that monolith. Like you have to be that extremely consistent, unwavering presence, right? Like, because everyone's always depending on you all the time. And it's like you can't do that. You can't ever have a breakdown. You can't ever be upset. You can't sit there and tell how you feel. It's all right. This is what happens. This is what we're gonna do about it, and that's it.
But this is why the suicide rate for men is far greater than women, because they don't allow themselves to share because of the judgment that they might have from society. Well, do you know what? Society, who cares? Society has opinions, but the people who mind don't matter, and the people who matter don't mind. Dr. Seuss. So the more open you are with people that you trust, not everybody gets that of you though. Only the people that deserve that can have that. Yeah. For me, I'm an open book. If you ask me a question, I'll tell you the answer. And there are certain things that I share more deeply with my partner. But, what's the saying? There are three faces: the face your Instagram people get, the face your family get, and the face your lover gets, or something. So you share what you want to share with people, but know that you shouldn't feel limited in that sharing, because that is a culture you grew up in, but that doesn't necessarily have to be your truth now. Yeah.
That's powerful. I was like, oh man, because then we're all quiet. We're just like, oh, we're taking it.
Yeah, we're really taking it.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
When something hits it down, we're like,
So Red, I just want to check in because we've just spoken really deeply.
Mm-hmm.
I want to check in how you're feeling before we move on to the next thing.
Yeah, now I'm kind of like in this pensive state where I'm like, I have a lot of things to think about. As soon as this podcast episode ends, I got to revisit some situations.
Do you know what makes you beautiful?
What?
Kintsukatori. I can't pronounce it properly. So the Japanese proverb for when something breaks, when a porcelain thing breaks, they mend it with gold. They mend it with gold.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's beauty in the imperfections. So people relate to your imperfections because we're all imperfect. And imperfections make us perfect. So embrace them, because a woman will be drawn to you so much more for you being vulnerable and sharing that than just being staunch and being, strong all the time. We want a strong man, but we want the feminine as well. We've got to embrace the two. Yeah. Okay, I talked again. How are you feeling? You're going to re-embrace it?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to revisit that and think about that. Yeah. Figure out where the kinks in the hose,
Yeah. And you're perfect as you are, honey. You really are. Like, we all are. You are. So don't ever make yourself wrong for how you're feeling. It's just a feeling, and feelings aren't real. They're just a thought from our brain creating a reaction in our system. And you can recreate that feeling and change it. You know, have you seen happy is an actual physical thing? You can see happy in the brain chemistry of happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same with sad. It's a physical thing. So you can, you know, change and transform your beliefs around that.
Yeah, we're just taking it all in.
Okay, good.
First topic anytime, you guys.
You're like,
You're all good. He's laughing. Good. Okay, we can move on now. He's laughing.
No.
Thank you for being so vulnerable, Red Pill. You've already
Yeah,
already stepped into that. That was amazing.
Like everyone who knows me watching this live stream is just like, did he really just say that? Did he really just open up about that thing?
Yeah, man, you don't open up too
that?
much.
yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate
wow.
it though. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Aw.
Really appreciate it. Do you know how many men watching this will go, "Oh, shivers," like
Not too bad.
open up that opportunity. So you're leading the way.
Yeah, we have one of the guys who speaks on our podcast. He just timed down the live stream, so I'm not sure if he's still on, but hopefully it resonated with him too. I guess.
Yeah.
He's still there. I don't think I have any other questions unless you.
Oh,
I have one.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, that's deep. It's deep.
So what kind of advice can you give a woman who's kind of like feeling down on herself? Like, how do you like regain your worth again?
By knowing that your worth is not based on other people's opinions. So I went on The Bachelor, as you know, and when I came out of that, I had a lot of love. I had a lot of negativity as well, because I was the MC for Sexpo and people were like, is she a hooker? Is she a prostitute? Like all this kind of stuff. And if I sat there and made a meaning out of everything those people said, I wouldn't get out of bed. So it's about knowing that in this world, people will have opinions. They're like bum holes. We all have one, you know, but not taking on board people's opinions and allowing it to impact you. Just as I said earlier, stand in your worth. When you know who you are, it's like a superhero cape. You know who you are, and people will fling stuff at you and it'll just fly off, because they're not your people. So if you're feeling down right now, what I want you to do is I want you to do some affirmations. It's hard, but instead of that inner critic, release your inner cheerleader. So the inner critic might be, you might get up in the morning and say, I look fat today. I want you to hear that inner critic and step out and go, hang on, would you say that to your best friend? No. So don't say it to yourself. So release your inner cheerleader. You're working on your health goals. I'm beautiful. I love myself for who I am today. I'm grateful for this body that I have that allows me to get to and from all of the activities that life has to offer me. So gratitude is a great thing. Like when you learn true gratitude, you can appreciate even the challenges. When a challenge happens to me, I go, ha, universe, what are you doing? I accept. So have fun with it. Don't allow it to consume you, because, you know, happiness is a choice. It really is a choice. And people are wondering why I'm so happy during Corona. It's because I'm choosing every day to be happy and create a life of routine and doing things that fill me up. I find purpose in my life. Journal. If you're really feeling down, journal. Get it out. If it's negative, tear it up, throw it out. Find actions to combat the inner critic that is you're allowing to rule yourself over you. Hopefully that helps.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, good. Yeah. And oh, I just got a little message. Comparison. Stop comparing yourself to others. Looking at somebody's Instagram and looking at this fitness model, thinking, holy shit, she's better than me. How can I find love if that person's out there? And how can I compete? Well, it's not about competing. It's about embracing who you are and really owning who you are, because as I said earlier, somebody will come into your life that matches that energy and isn't interested in that fitness model. Men like all types. you're a type, someone will love you, but you got to love you first.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Good. I'm like I said, thank you for answering all these questions. I know we kind of stumped you a lot longer than normal.
That's all right.
But
my pleasure. I'm just worried about Red Pill. Oh no, he's moving.
So I will say, my name is Markel.
Markel,
I didn't know we weren't using nicknames, so I let mine in, and I felt really bad. And I was like, okay.
I was like,
my name's Markel. Let's go on first name basis here.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Markel. I'm sorry.
You see the name on there.
I'm just like, oh.
I'll take the blue pill. You take the red pill. The Matrix. Anyway, sorry. Hope I haven't offended you by saying that all this time.
No. It's totally okay. This is I think way back when we were doing the podcast, it was like we all kind of had like code names.
Yeah.
Right. It was like we all had code names, and then it was like on the very second episode I was on, we did a live stream, and I was like, well, now there's no point of having a code name. it just stuck. It just stuck.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that or someone would accidentally say our real name and then
Why did you say that? You never say real name.
Red Pill makes you sound cool. Sorry, I just kept going. So
that's all right.
Red Pill, what does he know?
I don't know where the name came from. I think I started using it since like season 1, and I was like, you know what? Honestly, everyone kind of knows who we are.
I love that. That's beautiful. You guys are great. I've really enjoyed this.
I know.
Thank you so much for coming on. It was very helpful,
My pleasure.
very insightful. Like, I'm definitely gonna look up your book too.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Can you share that one more time? What's it called?
Yeah.
Breaking Down the Breakup.
Breaking Down the Breakup. If you guys hear that on live stream.
Okay, so Breaking Down the Breakup, and then I think you said you had a course. If you just want to give the overview of the course so people knowing, like, hey, like I really like what she's saying, I like her insight, maybe I could really benefit, like each brief description of the course and what they could hope to gain from it.
Yeah,
thank you. So it's called the Love Trust Cycle, and I run it online. So it's via Facebook, a Facebook group. So it's 8 weeks, and it's essentially starting from scratch. So setting all of the right foundations, debunking all of those triggers and more, I guess, removing all of those triggers and creating and reframing what you want, understanding who you are, and manifesting the love you actually really deserve naturally and authentically. So it's 8 weeks. I do live calls every week, plus there's video sessions as well, and workbooks that you get. So you get workbooks and you have to do the exercises, and I keep you accountable. And there's also the option of just doing the course, or then upgrading and having one-on-one sessions with me as well to help aid you in that process also. So that I'm actually going after this call, I'm literally sitting down. I've just finished one 8-week course about 2 weeks ago, so I'm working on the next one now. So
nice.
Yeah.
So I want to give something for the listeners too here, the people who listen to my podcast.
Yes.
Is there any like something that we can, for a course program? I know you mentioned your website. I'll link your website on here. That way people can go on there and or email, whichever works for you. But is there something for, I guess, for the listeners that they say they've seen your email or seen your message? Is there like a program that, I'm not saying free wise, but like any kind of discounted or promo or something we can?
So I can't, okay, sure. So what I'll do is I'll give an extra 30-minute love reading.
Okay.
Free.
Cool.
Like a love session. Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
So on top of the 3, you'll get,
Love
you get an extra one. A love session. Markel, I know.
Extra 30 minutes.
Quick segue. Belinda at beloved.com.au. Belinda at beloved.com.au.
So Belinda
at B for Belinda, and then the word loved, loved.com.au.
Okay. let me put that on there. That way I'll pin it for people.
And my Facebook is Belinda Love, or my Instagram, Belinda Love Coach. Wherever you want to find me.
So Belinda at love.com.au, right?
But belindalove.com.au. Yep, that's my website. Yep.
Okay, got it. And then
All right. And then we'll get our socials and we'll put those up. And
yeah, great. Great. Can I hear from you? Sorry, yeah, you go.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I wanted to hear if there's one thing you guys took away from this chat today.
Ooh, man. We'll start with Kylie. I don't want to start Red Pill first. I don't know if he's still kind of,
There's just like so much. I can't just pin one thing.
Yeah.
But I guess like just you like answering my question, just reiterating, not to compare yourself to other people. Always like just staying confident like in yourself, you know, and just always remembering your worth, you know, just you know, affirming yourself like every morning, you know, those are like some really good practices, you know, to do like on a daily basis. So I think that was really helpful for me.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And Dante?
man, I was actually going, so on my podcast, I actually put like certain things that someone says.
Yeah.
And it's something you said earlier, and then you went to Red Pills right before you went into Red Pill. And it resonated with me. And I have to rethink it now. I have to revisit it now. But it's like it got pretty deep right after that. Like literally right after you said what you said, and I was like, all right, I'll remember it. I just right when you got into Red Pill, I'm trying to remember it. I was like, oh man, I have to look back at it. But it was something it hit me, and I was just like, all right, I can't.
Well, what you guys? Do you have something Red Pill?
Yeah, I'll go. So Dante, about an extra minute and a half to figure out something.
I mean, Markel, sorry.
I don't know why I can't remember. I was going to say this back.
There's actually two things. One of them is really fast, but I think was the most impactful one is there is a distinction between softness and vulnerability. I think I'm going to have to unpack a lot and figure out where do I draw that line, but there is a line to be drawn there, I think, for me. And then the second thing was, and this was like gold, and I think this is something that every man needs to hear. And so you should definitely repost this on your socials. Rejection is not real. So it was like, maybe it was just got out of the breakup. And so I was like, had this idea in my head where I was like, you know what? I'm gonna date a supermodel. I don't know why that came to my head one day. I was like, I'm gonna date myself like a 6'2", straight out of like the Ukraine, right? Like the supermodel. And then so I started looking up all this stuff about like pickup, PUAs, right? Because some of it is completely phony, but there are some golden nuggets in there about being funny, being confident, not being like treat her like a person. She's a person, right? So talk to her, don't talk at her, talk to her, right? Yeah. And so what I did was like, I think it was like for 2 weeks straight, I was like, I'm gonna approach 7 girls every day. Yeah. Because I have a bit of approach anxiety, right?
Chase the no.
Right. And so like literally every single day I went and I was just talking to girls. And no one said yes after like the first 2 weeks. And then
that's okay.
And then Dante, we went out to the club that one night. Oh. And it was just, I'm not gonna the whole story, but I was just in flow. Like it was just socializing. And then I remember like I would like go to just huge groups of girls, I would like talk to them, invite my guy friends over, they would introduce them, I would just leave. I was doing that the entire night. And I think it's really, really important for guys to get, because we are generally the pursuers. We have a lot of approach anxiety. Not everyone's for you. Rejection is not real. It's just her saying we're not compatible. And there's plenty of people out there.
And it's a diversion. It's a diversion. The universe is like, nah, you're not compatible. Don't worry. Don't waste your time. It's, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
what if like coming from a woman, the men who do approach you, like you're not interested in them. The men who do try to chase you, you're not interested. But then you do find a man that you are interested in. Like, should you like go for him still, or should you wait for him to chase you?
Say that last question again. If you find
so let's just say you find a man that you are interested in. Should you go after him, or should you just wait for him to chase you?
Okay. So green lights. This is what I suggest. So I think that a green light is something like you're at a bar and you like a guy and you see him and you make eye contact for longer than like 1 second and you smile. and you don't just do it once, you do it a couple of times. That's giving him the green light to approach you. So I think I do believe in and that's just one example of a green light. So I do like a man to make the effort and approach me, but I also like to let them know that it's okay to approach me. And if they don't take the bite, they don't take the bait, then I don't chase. I used to chase so much, and then it devalues your self-worth. And then, you know, the more unworthy you feel, the more you chase. So when you feel worthy and they don't take the bite or the bait, then, oh, well, that's fine. I put myself out there. I was vulnerable. He didn't take the bait. That's fine. Move on.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an issue that I have personally. Like, I chase after guys that aren't interested in me.
And I totally get it. I totally get it, because it's more you needing the approval than you needing that man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we could do a whole coaching session on that too. I was just about to get started. Sorry. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's having that awareness is great, because I don't want you to spend time chasing a man that isn't investing in you. It's got to be 50-50, 100% together, but it's got to be like a game of tennis. If you're hitting a ball over to one and he's not hitting it back, you're just going to have a pile of balls and I thought dirty then. and no return. So return on your investment. That's how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
that helps. So all right, I'll say my takeaway, because you know, I don't think I'm gonna remember. I usually just write things down. I just don't have anything to write it down with.
that's
But
okay.
it did help me with the clarification on sensitivity and vulnerability when I asked that question about it. That resonated with me, because that was kind of a different distinction between the two. And that helped out, like, you know, just in general, the vulnerability side, and how you know, I never heard this one before with the women in those Neanderthal times. They talk and talk. That's something that I've never heard that before. So that was something that really hit me too. So yeah, but just wanted to let you guys know that was
Thank you.
It wasn't what I had in my mind when I was thinking what I was going to say. And I just it'll come to me. I'll put it down on my podcast episode. So.
Great.
Yeah.
And I learned that we are all humans dealing with stuff in life, and there's no right or wrong. It's just is. And I truly see the beauty in all of you. And I'm so grateful for this conversation today. So thank you for coming into my life. Amazing. Yeah.
Thank you for joining in and sharing us so much knowledge. And a lot of us just taking it all, even the people on the live stream are kind of quiet. They're like, oh, this is good. I typically
$1 million.
I typically try to, like, especially for Friday, this end of the week. I know a lot of people are in the slums of everything, and especially, I mean, seeing you being optimistic about the social dating now with the coronavirus now, so that gives a bigger understanding. I think it hopefully helped out a lot of people who listened in and tuned in. So thank you for that. So that was something we kind of needed for the weekend, I think. Well, for you it's Saturday, but for us, for us, you know, US, we're still on Friday. So but, yeah, but I appreciate that, and I'm not sure if you guys have any other questions or anything like that. You guys good?
Yeah.
But thank you again.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
My
I will put everything on the link here. If you guys are tuning in, I'll share and put your website and your email. That way, I have people who are listening in who outreach to you. I got to do a lot of editing. And the good thing about Zoom, I've upgraded, so now I got longer time, because last time it was 45 minutes. Okay, now we're able to, you know, talk longer on here.
Can you edit my tan to like look better? I have to go wash it off.
Helio's our camera guy. We'll have him do it.
The camera guy, dude. He's on live stream right now.
I'm gonna wash it off.
Oh yeah. So yeah. I pretty much that's all I have to say. I mean, like I said, appreciate you coming on with us and sharing.
No, thank you. And You ladies, gentlemen out there listening, you will find love. I promise you. You just have to be patient. In the interim, enjoy your life, and happiness isn't a destination; it's the journey. I know it's cliche, but every day, do something for you and get to know yourself on this journey while you wait for the man or woman of your dreams.
Nice. Okay. Well, I wanted someone asked what your Instagram was. What was it? Belinda Love
_coach.
Okay, there we go. I got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, let me put that on there, and that way they could see that. And yeah, no, it's good. I think a lot of people who are on here thanking you too as well. So,
oh, thank you. That's nice. I got goosebumps.
All right. Well, thank you guys for all the time, and you guys come on. All right.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Stay in touch, yeah? Stay in touch.
Yeah, we will. Stay in touch. Yeah. All right.
See ya.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.